Previously on the Proxy market. The Foundry archive exposed the market's origin, and the buried records pointed toward a buyer who never appeared in person. Now Mara follows the purchase trail to someone rich enough to outsource consequence itself. Episode 11. The Buyer Without a Face. Original buyer field available. The archive offered the words politely, as if it had not just turned the floor under Mara's boots into an old wound with blue edges. Wren's stamp rod was still raised. Oren's face had gone the color of paper left too long and damp. He stared at the glowing seal with a look Mara recognized because she had been wearing variations of it all week. The expression of someone who had suspected one terrible thing and discovered the terrible thing had paperwork. "Do not touch it," Wren said. Mara looked down at the seal. That advice would have meant more before it woke up around my feet. Step away. Does that work when floors invite you personally? Ms. Venn. The black docket lay open against her coat, pages lifted by the archive's wind. A new line printed. Buyer field access requires carrier confirmation. Oren whispered. It will inform the current account holder. Of course it will. Mara. I heard you. No, he said. Hear me as someone who has hidden from these people badly and for years. If the original field wakes the current account, Varric will know exactly what you saw. Varric already invited me upstairs. Upstairs is not the same as inside his foundation. That was probably true. It was also too late to be useful. Mara crouched and held one hand over the blue seal without touching it. The light made the old scars on the stone stand out. Venn line compatibility. Lisa's name. The phrase family continuation, half buried in the pattern like a polite way to say inheritance of harm. The borrowed guilt under her ribs stirred. Apologize, it suggested. No, Mara said. Wren took one step. Oren moved between them. That surprised everyone, including Oren. The old man was thin, tired, and built mostly out of apology, but he stood there anyway with his black gloves visible at his sides. Officer, Oren said, if you interrupt an active provenance seal, you corrupt the record. I can close the room. You can try. Wren's eyes flicked to the blue flame rising in the old engines. Mara touched the seal. The archive did not ask if she consented. That felt important. It accepted her contact the way a lock accepted a key. The floor light climbed through her fingers, up her wrist, and into the brass tag at her throat. For one breath, she smelled her mother's fever room, boiled cloth, rainwater, old soap, apology wearing out a voice. Then the archive pulled past it, deeper, into an older line of purchase orders and civic seals. Text built in the air above the floor. Original buyer field. The space below remained blank. Then the blank field folded open. Not into a name, into a structure. Civic account 0, founding relief pool, administered by Market Authority, Office of Civic Renewal. Authorized purpose, public burden stabilization. Mara read it once. Then again, because the mind sometimes rejected a clean sentence when the sentence was dirty enough. Low person, she said. Oren's voice was hoarse. No. No buyer behind the buyer. Not in the way we hoped. Wren lowered the stamp rod by another inch. Mara looked at him. You knew the route went through civic renewal. Routes are not ownership. This is. The archive seal added a second layer. Current derivative account, Civic Renewal Demonstration Trust. Public claimant class, Mero citizenry. Authorized result, collective remorse relief. The words did not shout. They did not need to. The city had made itself the buyer. Not one rich patron, not Madame Istrin with her pale gloves and clean hunger. Not a sealed villain in a private office enjoying guiltlessness like a warm bath. Mero. The crowd at Grant Square. The buyer with coffee. The woman who said her sister would give anything for 3 days' rest. The clerk who wanted proper form. Mara herself, every time she had taken a small assignment and told herself small meant clean. That was the part that hurt. Varric had not only hidden the account, he had made it wide enough for everyone to stand inside without seeing the walls. Oren sat down hard on a stone step. I thought Civic Account 0 had been retired. You thought a lot of things were buried, Mara said. Yes. No defense, no clever clerk language, just yes. Wren stared at the floating words. Public claimant class does not mean every citizen consented. Mara turned to him. For the first time, he sounded like he was arguing with someone who was not in the room. Will that matter upstairs? She asked. His mouth closed. The archive answered for him. Consent basis. Renewal vote ratification pending. Mara felt the chamber tilt without moving. They do not need the vote to begin, she said. They need it to make everyone retroactively clean. Oren covered his face with one black-gloved hand. The old engines hummed. The archive added a smaller notation beneath the vote line. Retroactive consent model. Public benefit accepted through market use, formalized through renewal ratification. Mara stared at it. Market use, she said. Oren's hand stayed over his face. Anyone who buys, anyone who sells, anyone who accepts a public result funded by assigned burden. That is everyone. That is the argument. It was worse than the city being the buyer. It was the city being made to confess by living in it. Every tired worker who accepted cheap fever relief. Every parent who took a subsidized learning voucher. Every proxy who told herself small assignments were survival and survival was not endorsement. Varric had built a guilt account out of daily compromise, then offered to let the city buy its own unease away. Mara thought of the woman in Grant Square saying her sister would give anything for 3 days' rest. The sentence had not been evil. That was why it frightened her. Evil would have been simpler. Need was everywhere. He is not selling corruption, Mara said. Wren looked at her. He is selling relief from being part of it. The old engines kept humming, as if they had known that for decades, and were tired of waiting for the people to catch up. Above them, somewhere in the modern building, a bell rang twice. Wren touched the receiver bead at his collar. It glowed blue. He listened. Mara could not hear the voice, but she watched the last of his uncertainty harden into orders. Director Varric requests the evidence bearer, Wren said. Requests, Mara said. Requires. There it is. The black docket printed again. Dependent contact initiated. Mara stopped breathing. Oren lowered his hand. Niko, Mara said. The archive seal did not show a face. It showed roots. Thin blue lines lifted from the buyer field text and ran upward through a ghost map of civic renewal. Archive, intake, public board, learning house accounts, benefactors circle. One line pulsed west. Home. Then it changed direction. North. Mara stepped into the line as if she could block light with her boots. Where is he? No answer. The black docket printed, dependent escort status, active. No. The word left her before thought. It struck the archive and came back smaller. Oren moved to a brass speaking tube mounted beside the cabinet. Old service line, he said. If Tamsin is at the ward, this may still reach her. Do it. Let may also alert, do it. Oren cranked the tube twice. The old line clicked, hissed, and filled with static that smelled, impossibly, of dust. Tamsin's voice came through thin and furious. If this is Oren Vale, I am still deciding whether to keep your proof or your teeth. Tamsin, Mara said. The static sharpened. Mara, where are you? Below Civic Renewal, Foundry Archive. Is Niko with you? A pause. That pause hurt worse than an answer. "Breck reached your rooms," Tamsin said. "The kettle was moved. Packet gone." Mara's hand tightened around the tube. "Did he sign?" "No signed packet found. Breck found your note torn in half and a school escort receipt on the table." "School?" "Benefactor's Circle, Protective Review. They used your public disclosure as risk cause." Mara closed her eyes. Risk cause. She had stamped her own tag to show the city proof, and the authority had turned the stamp into a reason to collect Niko. That was not irony. That was engineering. Tamsin's voice dropped. "Breck is following. Badly, loudly, but following. Tell him not to get caught. He will ignore that in the least competent way available." Mara almost smiled. It failed before becoming useful. Another voice came through the line, younger, distant, surrounded by room echo. "Mara?" "Niko." Her body forgot every rule. "Niko." "I did not sign." The relief was so sharp it felt like injury. "Where are you?" "Circle office. They said it was safer than home because your tag is under review. They said if you correct the disclosure, they can clear everything, and no one has to put me on the demonstration list." No one. Mara heard the hope in the word, heard the child beneath the cleverness, heard page 2 clearing the debt. "Listen to me," she said. "Do not sign. Do not agree. Do not let them scan you again." "They already scanned the door when I came in." Tamsin swore in the background without using a word. The service line crackled. Niko said, smaller, "Mara, are you in trouble because of me?" The borrowed guilt surged so hard Mara nearly dropped the tube. Yes, it wanted. Apologize. Make it smooth. She pressed her forehead against the cold brass. I am in trouble because adults made a market out of things children should never have to solve. Static swallowed his answer. Then the line cut. The archive seal shifted. The buyer field text moved aside, making room for a live civic renewal notice. It arrived under the same gold seal that had corrected Mara's public leak. Protected dependent offer, Mara Venn. Learning house debt, cleared. Sponsor access, suspended from public demonstration. Guardian location, deferred. Condition, Mara Venn withdraws disclosure claims, surrenders residual materials, and provides corrective testimony at renewal forum. Mara read it. The words did not change. That was rude of them. He is at home, she said. Wren did not answer. He is at home. Wren's silence became information. Mara stepped toward him. The archive seal flared around her boots. Where is my brother? Wren's jaw worked once. When he spoke, his voice was lower. Benefactor's Circle has registered a protective escort. Protective? Pending Guardian review. You people could poison a well and call it hydration. Oren stood, slower than Mara wanted. If they have Niko, they have leverage. If they have leverage, the forum becomes a confession stage. I know. Mara, I know. But knowing did not make breathing simpler. The borrowed guilt surged, delighted by the offer's shape. Clear debt, protected dependent, surrender materials, corrective testimony. It was not asking her to agree for herself. It was asking her to agree for Niko. That was clever. That was vicious. That was going to work if she let herself look at page 2 too long. Mara pressed both hands against the edge of the archive seal. If I withdraw, she said, what happens to Pell? Wren said nothing. Joss? Nothing. The youth cohorts? The old engines hummed in the silence. Mara looked at Oren. Can the archive copy this? Not safely. I did not ask for safely. It can print a provenance strip, but doing so will anchor your tag to the record. My tag is already apparently a social destination. It will also alert the current account holder that a certified buyer field copy exists. Good. Oren stared at her. Good? Varric keeps winning by telling people what things are called. I want him to know there is one thing with its old name still attached. Wren stepped forward. I cannot allow certified removal. The archive seal brightened. Oren looked at the floor, then at Wren. You do not allow foundry provenance, Oren said softly. You witness it. He pressed his black-gloved thumb to the edge of the seal. The archive bit him. Not literally, no blood, but Oren gasped and folded at the waist as if the old machine had reached into his ribs and turned a handle. Mara caught his arm. What did you do? Authenticated, he breathed. The floor seal printed a strip of blue-white paper from a slot between two stones. Impossible paper. Old paper. It smelled of smoke and ledger ink. Mara took it. At the top, certified provenance, civic account 0. Under it, current derivative, civic renewal demonstration trust. Authorized result, collective remorse relief. The black docket slammed shut. Wren's receiver bead flashed red. Now, he said, both of you. Oren was still bent over, one gloved hand against the seal. Mara folded the certified strip into the reader envelope and tucked it inside her coat. We cannot argue our way out, Oren said. Then we stop arguing. And do what? Mara looked at the old engines. Their blue flames reflected in the glass like a row of open eyes. Public proof could be renamed. Private proof could be confiscated. Niko could be bought with safety. The demonstration was where the lie became visible enough to matter. We get inside the machinery, Mara said. The archive lights dimmed. Above them, civic renewal bells rang 3 times. Wren opened the stair door. At the top of the stairs, Director Varric's voice waded through the building speakers, warm and patient. Ms. Venn, he said, your brother is safe. For the moment.